Thanks for joining us. I'm Megan Roberts. We begin tonight in Nunavut, where 2 group homes are set to close this week, which could force some children and youth out of the territory. The Ungarak Corporation provides respite care services in Iqaluit, but its contract with the Nunavut government has been cancelled. As Samuel Watt reports, some families are worried about where their children will end up.
For Sakili Sabanda, caring for children and youth at Ungarak's group homes in Iqaluit was more than just a job.
I cared for the youths like they are my kids.
Which made it also more devastating to receive the contract termination notice last month. Sabanda is the managing director of Ungarak. The Iqaluit-based company has been providing respite services for children and youth under Nunavut's Family Services care since 2025. Sabanda says 7 children will have to be relocated, some out of the territory.
One of the youth has been asking almost everybody to adopt him because he does not want to leave the territory. Because his family is here. This is the home he knows.
Family Services says the termination is because of a contract dispute. Sabanda says she was just asking for pay parity with the contracts of other group home operators. The lack of a resolution worries Samantha Alulu. The youth support worker at Ungarak says she's noticed an improvement in some of the children since they entered care. She worries about what will happen to them next.
They do have a lot of history, and it's already hard enough on them to be going to different places, and we don't want them to be more hurt than they already are.
CBC News spoke to a family member of a youth in care who we're not naming to protect their identity. They say they're scared to have the youth potentially sent out of Nunavut, and it goes against the department's mission for family unity. Family Services says every decision is based on the youth's circumstances and best interests. Nunavut's representative for children and youth, Jane Bates, doesn't believe that's the case here, especially since there are no quality of care concerns.
How does the department justify, removing children out of a placement that is providing adequate services?
For now, Sabanda says she hopes the youth find some stability going forward.
I pray that the youth are they're well taken care of, and I pray that they find peace in all this.
Samuel Watt, CBC News, Yellowknife.
Nunavut's representative for children and youth says an upcoming audit into the territory's family services will likely end in disappointment. The Auditor General of Canada is doing a 5th audit into the Nunavut department before the end of this year. Artie Sarkisian has that story.
The Federal Auditor General is no stranger to Nunavut, particularly to the territory's Department of Family Services. Since 2011, there have been 4 reports into the department and the way it looks after the children in its care. All of those audits have highlighted issues that are putting those children at risk. The Auditor General said the department wasn't following its own standards and wasn't supervising its staff properly. It also used inaccurate data and wasn't investigating allegations of abuse or neglect. Auditor General Karen Hogan called Nunavut's foster care system a failing system. She described her 2023 report as an urgent call to action to address the crisis. And in 2025, Deputy Auditor General Andrew Hayes called Nunavut government's attempts to improve the situation disappointing. Now, the Auditor General will again table a report into the department, its 5th one in 15 years. The territory's representative for children and youth, Jane Bates, says little has changed since the last report was published.
The actions that have been implemented or have been undertaken have not resulted in measurable improvements for children, youth, and their families.
Bates says a major improvement would have been a decrease in the number of children in care of the government, which hasn't happened. As of March 2025, there are 533 Nunavut children in foster care, up from 395 in 2011. That comes as the department's wellness division is only half-staffed. In its latest annual report, the department says the division has a vacancy rate of 47%. Wellness division is part of the department directly responsible for taking care of the children.
We all know that things are not going well. That's not a secret. And the proof is in the numbers, and the proof is in the files that we see on an ongoing basis.
CBC News has reached out to the Department of Family Services for comment and is awaiting its response. Artie Sarkisian, CBC News, Iqaluit.
A child last seen in Pangnaktun, Nunavut on Sunday has been found dead. RCMP say 9-year-old Mike Nauyuk was found deceased just before noon today. No other details were released. Nauyuk was reported missing by his family on Monday evening. Nunavut's officer of the chief coroner is investigating. It's been more than 2 weeks since a wildfire near Fort Simpson forced residents to evacuate their community. But the eventual return home will be a bittersweet one for one resident. Ashley O'Krinick spent hundreds of hours turning an old trailer in Fort Simpson into her home and safe space. Tragically, it was lost earlier this month to the wildfire burning in and around the village. Now, with the support of her community, she's trying to heal.
You know, I got the call and I've just been trying to process the shock and the grief and the uncertainty just a little bit at a time. So many of my community members and people connected to me have been sending me really positive, supportive messages, letting me know that they'll help rebuild, letting me know that I'm strong and that I'll get through it. And that, you know, a lot of people just feeling for me in the loss and letting me know that, you know, they're willing to help when I know what I need. Eternally grateful for them. They're really, you know, the support has really held me up through it as I try to, you know, slowly figure out what's going to happen when I go home. After reflecting on my situation and how hard I worked, you know, I really know that I've survived a lot and that I'm going to survive this. And, you know, I've been doing a lot of healing in the last little while, and I'm really holding on to all of the things that are still here and that we're safe, and you know that everyone's working hard in my community to so that we can come home, and that people, you know, all the other communities that have evacuees are just being you know, as best hosts they can, and that, you know, we're gonna survive this, and we're gonna go home, and we're gonna move forward.
That was Ashley O'Krinick. She lost her home to the wildfire burning near Fort Simpson. The Ekati diamond mine in the Northwest Territories is set to close for good. A BC court heard today that a court-supervised process to sell the mine attracted no bidders before the July 10th deadline. The court then placed the mine into receivership under the management of PricewaterhouseCoopers. The company's owner, Arctic Canadian Diamond Company, a subsidiary of Burgundy Diamond Mines, entered creditor protection in May, and it's expected to run out of cash in the next week. Winding down mining operations should take about 5 weeks. Then the reclamation work begins. The NWT government is holding $325 million of the company's money for environmental security. NWT's industry minister, Caitlin Cleveland, is calling the closure a difficult day for the territory. The mine has been a mainstay of the NWT economy since it opened in 1998. But global factors, including the emergence of synthetic diamonds, have significantly impacted demand. We also heard from the NWT's Minister of Environment and Climate Change today in a statement. Jay McDonald said the receiver is expected to be on site today. He said Ekati is a remote and complex site, and it cannot simply be allowed to stop in a sudden or disorderly way. He said the receiver will be responsible for overseeing site operations, care and maintenance, and eventual reclamation and closure activities under the supervision of the court. He went on to say the GNWT will continue to uphold its responsibilities to protect the land, water, and public interest. The GNWT holds financial security for the Ekati mine, and that security exists to help ensure closure and reclamation obligations can be met if the company is unable to meet them. It's still unclear whether the government of Nunavut will decide to become a shareholder of Canadian North, and the deadline for that decision is tomorrow. Last year, the GN signed an agreement with the airline's owner, Exchange Income Corporation. The agreement gave it the option to become a minority owner of the airline. At the time, former Premier PJ Akyaguk called air travel Nunavut's lifeline. Canadian North is the territory's largest airline, and the GN is its biggest client. It uses Canadian North for cargo, medical, and duty travel. CBC has reached out to the government of Nunavut, Canadian North, and Exchange Income Corporation for comment, but hasn't received a response. NATO parliamentarians are coming to Iqaluit to learn more about Arctic security in the north. More than 30 parliamentarians from 15 countries will arrive in the territory today. They're part of a political committee focused on issues that matter to NATO. In Iqaluit, they'll have the chance to hear from representatives from the government of Nunavut and Nunavut Tungavik Incorporated. The chair of the Canadian NATO Parliamentary Association hopes the visit will help create dialogue.
To ensure that the NATO parliamentarians have a clear understanding of how is it that Canada will defend and protect our Arctic.
Zarowitz says that includes partnership with Inuit. Parliamentarians will have the chance to tour locations in Iqaluit, like the deep sea port and the forward operating location at the city's airport. The Alberta referendum, resources, and a duty to consult were all on the agenda as the National Chief opened this year's Assembly of First Nations General Meeting. Kristen Ajagute has the details from Ottawa.
During the National Chief's opening address to Chiefs, Cindy Woodhouse-Neepanak said the country is a new Canada that includes Indigenous people, stressing the importance of including Indigenous leadership at all decision-making tables when it comes to resource development projects in Canada.
Our rights are our rights, and this land is our land.
Woodhouse-Neepanak highlighted the need for Indigenous sovereignty and the duty for all provinces, territories, and Prime Minister Mark Carney to consult. She stressed that not one project will get built without First Nations approval. The chief said that the Prime Minister's office has confirmed there will be a meeting this fall between First Ministers and chiefs from across the country.
Chiefs are united in saying that this national meeting can't be a one and done. That means establishing an ongoing federal provincial accountability mechanism to ensure that socioeconomic gaps are addressed through deeds and not words.
The AFN is also concerned about Mark Carney's revised water bill, C-37, essentially saying it wanted to see the explicit recognition of First Nations' human right to safe drinking water. And she repeated her stance on Alberta separatism. Have a listen.
We have made it clear that any proposal to separate from any province or territory from Canada is fundamentally illegitimate and unconstitutional without the explicit, prior, informed and collective consent of First Nations. We need to make and call it what it is, because Albertans need to know that if they vote to separate from Canada, that they're not taking the land with them.
There are more than 50 resolutions to be decided on by chiefs in the next 3 days. They include child welfare, Indian Act status, and calls for the Vatican to rescind a number of papal decrees. Kristen Ajagute, CBC News, Ottawa.
An icon of Northwest Territories tourism has died. Chummy Plummer was a renowned fishing guide in the territory. With his family, he owned and operated several lodges that still host guests from around the globe. Jessica Davy-Quantic has more on Plummer's story and the legacy he leaves behind.
This week, the Northwest Territories is saying goodbye to one of its legends with the passing of Chummy Plummer. His father and grandfather founded Plummer's Lodge in the 1930s. By the time Chummy came along, he grew the business into multiple lodges on Great Bear Lake and Great Slave Lake. He built 3 airstrips and was the ambassador for NWT tourism before there was any NWT tourism. Until COVID, he never missed a season. In 2020, he spoke with CBC.
Actually, I've been up there since 1955. I was guiding on Slave Lake when I was 13, and it's just what I do.
He also left his mark on Northern cuisine, for good or for ill, depending on how you feel about hot dogs. When a former chef at Plummer's Lodge started a food truck last summer, the Chummy dog had to be on the menu. A signature of changeover days at the lodge, Chummy had Costco's all-beef Polish sausages flown in specially before serving them up boiled.
Chummy's an interesting guy in the sense that he's just kind of a quirky dude, one of a kind for sure. Hardworking bushman, full of one-liners, tough guy for sure.
Parked on Plummer's lot in Yellowknife's Old Town, the dish is a tribute to the man, the myth, the legend. They're grilled, not boiled, even though Chummy liked his dogs au naturel.
He saw the sign, he's had the Chummy dog, they all call him Chummy dogs, so I think he probably got a kick out of it.
Plummer spent over 70 years bringing tourists, families, and celebrities from around the world to experience the North he loved.
One day we were talking, this wasn't too long ago, and I said to him, Chummy, are you ever going to retire? And he said, no, this is my life. And believe me, it was.
Jessica Davy-Quantick, CBC News, Yellowknife.
3D technology is allowing Arctic researchers to learn more about the wreck of an historic research vessel. It's been over 80 years since the Terra Nova sank, and the ship that once carried a famed explorer continues to play a part in polar exploration. Peter Cowan shows us how.
They're just getting Alvin the submersible ready for a dive down to the shipwreck. We're just off the coast of Greenland. This is the farthest north that Alvin has ever been in the water, and it presents some challenges. That water is just 2 degrees Celsius, very chilly for the swimmers needed to launch and recover this submersible. And then there's the icebergs. One came so close to the ship, they had to cancel one of the dives.
We did see this morning that there were icebergs about. We didn't think that that would be that big a deal. We were wrong. There are not just one, but 2 icebergs that beelined right at the wreck site. In fact, at this very moment, one of them is over the wreck site.
These dives are bringing back the most detailed pictures we've ever seen of the Terra Nova. This is the ship that Robert Falcon Scott used to reach the South Pole. It's showing us things like the double wheels at the stern of the ship, some other things like the boiler and the steam winch that were on board. Before and after it was an exploration ship, it was used as a sealing vessel based out of St. John's, Newfoundland. We're not just getting video, we're getting a 3D model that's being created with new technology. It'll allow historians to look at this wreck in 3 dimensions, but this is also very useful for biologists who want to understand this new habitat that the ship has become.
The 3D model allows me to have the full context. So I know not just I'm on the bow, I'm on the stern, but this particular sample is 30 meters from the bow, and that means that, you know, I can analyze things a lot more quantitatively. It allows us to be much more mathematical.
This expedition, being led by the Royal Canadian Geographical Society, hopes the data and images that it gathers will be studied long after this trip is over. Peter Cowan, CBC News, on board the research vessel Atlantis off the coast of Greenland.
If running isn't quite your speed, fast walking could still carry health benefits. A recent study suggests fast walkers in their 80s are less at risk of cognitive decline. An informal fast walking group has been trekking through Whitehorse for years, and some members say there's more than just health benefits to a fast walk. The CBC's Alexa Mackay caught up with some walkers to learn more.
Bonnie Love and Becky Strigler fast walk along the Millennium Trail. They are longtime members of an informal fast walking group in Whitehorse.
It's fast walking, by some people's terms. I think we're getting slower as we get older, but we all really enjoy the camaraderie of it, the little bit of fitness that we add to it. We usually try to, maybe get sweaty for a few minutes, do a couple of good hills, do some distance, which I think is, maintains our heart rate, or all the benefits that come from walking.
2 to 10 retirees meet twice a week for fast walks. Rain or shine, the group treks distances between 4.5 and 15 kilometers. The group has also fast walked through competitions.
In the early days, we were competitive. We would take part in the Klondike Road Relay between Whitehorse and Skagway, and we often won the walking category.
A recent study published in the Neurology Journal coined the term super movers for people older than 80 with gait speeds at least 1.5 standard deviations above average for their age. According to the study, super movers are less likely to develop cognitive decline. Dawn Mackey is a professor at Simon Fraser University. She says walking and mobility are important for independence in older adulthood.
A mobility limitation can make it really difficult
to do what you need to do in a day, to get in and out of bed, to get in and out of a chair, to get dressed, to go to the bathroom, to prepare meals, to go out and about.
Love and Strigler are both 67 years old. They know of the physical benefits to fast walks as they age. But Strigler says she enjoys fast walks for reasons beyond the workout.
You know, the being out in nature, it's being with friends. We usually go for lunch or coffee after. It's smelling the fresh air, being by the river. And then the exercise, of course. Of course, is really, really important. It's good to hear that it's good for our brains as well.
Love has fast walked in races across Canada, Italy, Sweden, and elsewhere. She could once fast walk 20 kilometers in under 2.5 hours. The White Horse Group has a reputation for speed, but Love says anyone is welcome to tag along.
We're very inclusive. It's really about the time we spend together, getting that bit of break from the rest of our week, and just enjoying ourselves.
The informal speed walking group meets on Wednesdays and Saturdays. Alexa Mackay, CBC News, Whitehorse.
Hot, sticky, and hazardous. A brutal heat wave is affecting millions of Canadians, causing sweltering conditions all the way from the Northwest Territories to Quebec. Experts say it's the latest sign of how climate change is affecting our country and the world. The CBC's Talia Sarv reports.
In this summer scorcher, a desperate attempt to keep cool by the pool.
It's been very spicy.
I think when I leave to go home, it might be another story.
Much of central Canada is baking in extreme heat. Across Ontario, high temperatures melted records. In Toronto, humidity making it feel in the 40s, leaving some at this fan festival struggling.
I have my fan here with like full circulation on from all angles.
Cooling tower, water and fan.
Pressure too on infrastructure, with a handful of roads in Manitoba buckling. It's among 4 provinces and 1 territory under heat warnings Tuesday.
This is a wide-ranging weather system that's going to be affecting Ontario, at least, and parts of Quebec for the next few days.
Environment Canada projects 2026 to be one of the country's hottest years on record. Canada is warming twice as fast as the global average. Climate change is driven largely by the burning of fossil fuels, and so, as Canada announces more pipeline projects to export oil, climate scientists are putting extra heat on those in power.
Climate physics aren't going to change just because our politics do, and we are ultimately going to have to address this problem.
The Prime Minister has said decisions being made now will secure Canada's energy future, admitting they come at a cost.
Will mean that our emissions will be higher in the next few years.
In Europe, relentless heat waves this summer are linked to thousands of deaths.
What's happening there in the cities?
Jennifer Vanos researches connections between extreme heat and human health. She says Canada must not be complacent.
If we continue to see more intense and longer lasting heat waves in our cities, then yes, we could see trends in terms of the cost to human health similar to Europe.
The question no longer whether summers are changing, but the response. Talia Sarv, CBC News, Toronto.
And that is Northbeat for tonight. Thank you for watching. For news anytime, go to cbc.ca/north. We leave you with some music from the Cochrane Pipe Band. The group from Southern Alberta is in the Yukon this week, and they put on a performance in downtown Whitehorse earlier today. I'm Megan Roberts. Have a good night.